Dear learners, the topic for discussion, as you can see on the screen, is Mathematics as a Way of Life, part 2. Let us briefly try to recollect what we had done in the program Mathematics as a Way of Life, part 1. We had taken up several real life applications of mathematics, and we tried to establish that many phenomena, many principles of nature, of sciences, they emerge from mathematics. In any case, mathematics is being applied to explain several phenomena of nature, to explain several phenomena in science, but we have tried to establish that those principles emerge from mathematics. So, here we are going to have the second part of that program, and here we shall mainly deal with application of mathematics in sports. So, we start with this example. You can see the sprint queen P.T. Usha on your screen, and on the right of your screen you have P.T. Usha with her coach Nambiar. You would be knowing that P.T. Usha had almost dominated the women's Asian track and field during the years 1982 to 1986, particularly during the 1982 Delhi Asiad and 1986 Seoul Asiad. She had won gold medals in 100 meters, 200 meters, 400 meters, and was a member of the team that won 4 into 100 meters relay. And in between 1982 and 1986, she had taken part in Los Angeles Olympics in the event 400 meter hurdles, and she missed the bronze medal by just 0.01 second, that is 1/100th of a second. That was that Indian tragedy. I remember P.T. Usha weeping profusely and her coach Nambiar trying to console her. In fact, we would not have had P.T. Usha perhaps if Nambiar had not picked her up from a very remote village in Kerala, and he nurtured her almost with daughter's affection. And in the same Olympics, that is the Los Angeles Olympics 1984, we had this famous hurdler, of course from the men's, that is Edwin Moses. So, he was taking part in the same event as that of P.T. Usha, and that was for men, and P.T. Usha's was for women. Edwin Moses had held the record of men's 400 meter hurdles for 8 long years from 1976 to 1984. You will not be finding the name of Edwin Moses as the gold medalist of the 1980 Moscow Olympics. That was because USA had boycotted 1980 Moscow Olympics. Now, there was something to learn from Moses's learning and how he had organized his run. So, I have tried to describe it as the arithmetic of Moses's organizing his run for the 400 meters hurdle. Now, in 400 meter hurdles race, there are 10 hurdles spread over a length of definitely 400 meters minus the two distances 40 meters, 45 meters. 40 meter is the distance of the first hurdle from the starting line, and 45 meters is the distance of the last hurdle from the finishing line. So, you take away 40 plus 45, that is 85 meter from 400 meters, and you get 315 meters. So, 10 hurdles are spread over 315 meters, and since there are 10 hurdles, there are 9 interim spaces. Like I am showing 3 fingers, so there are 2 interim spaces. I am showing 4 fingers, so there are 3 interim spaces. Similarly, if there are 10 hurdles, then there would be 9 interim spaces, and each such space would be 315 meter divided by 9, that is 35 meter. Very simple arithmetic. Now, how Moses was running this 35 meter space between 2 hurdles. Now, Moses's maximum stride length was 3 meters. Now, his coach asked him to take his hurdle jumping stride to 3.8 meter. You can definitely make out that the hurdle jumping stride would be much longer than the normal stride. So, he wanted his physical capability to be raised to that extent that the hurdle jumping stride goes up to 3.8 meter. Well, I am explaining this arithmetic, that does not mean that you will ask me to demonstrate, that would be a disaster. Now, Moses's maximum stride length was 3 meter. Now, why the hurdle jumping stride has to be 3.8 meter? Why not 3.7? Why not 3.9? What is so sacrosanct about 3.8? So, in order to understand that, we have to understand this arithmetic. More than 3.8, what is important is 35 meter minus 3.8 meter, which is 31.2 meter. This figure 31.2 is extremely important. Why so? Now, Moses was asked to take either 11 or 12 or 13 or 14 strides between two hurdles. Now, it was found that if he takes 11 strides, then the stride length has to be too long, and if he takes 14 strides, then the stride length will be too short, and none of them are very much convenient for having a proper pace between the hurdles. So, he finally settled between 12 strides or 13 strides. So, he had to take either 12 strides between two hurdles or 13 strides between two hurdles. And then the distance which has to be covered in 12 strides or 13 strides has to be exactly divisible by 12 as well as 13. It has to be a number which has to be exactly divisible by 12 as well as 13. That means, it has to be exactly divisible by the LCM of 12 and 13, and 13 being a prime number, the LCM is just 12 into 13, that is 156. And you can make out that the number closest to 35 exactly divisible by 156 is 31.2. 31.2 is 156 into 0.2. So, this was the distance, that is 31.2 meter, which he was covering by flat running, and the remaining 3.8 meter was the hurdle jumping stride. And if he was taking 12 strides, then each stride length would be 31.2 meter divided by 12, that is 2.6 meter, and if he had to take 13 strides, then each stride length would be 31.2 meter divided by 13, that is 2.4 meter, and you can find that each of them is well within the maximum stride length 3 meter of Edwin Moses. Now, Edwin Moses finally settled for 13 strides, 13 being an odd number. In fact, if you are taking even number of strides between two hurdles, then if you give pressure say on left foot while crossing the first hurdle, then you will be giving the pressure on the same foot while crossing the second hurdle, third hurdle, fourth hurdle, and so on and so forth. Whereas, if it is an odd number, then the pressure foot would alternate between left and right, and that gives more efficiency, because the load, the task gets distributed between left and right, as it happens during soldiers marching. And so, he settled for 13 strides between two hurdles. So, that was the trademark of Edwin Moses running between two hurdles, which is purely arithmetic based. Then let us take a look at this person. Now, this is Valery Brumel, who had held the record of high jump till 1964, and this is the event taking place in 1964 Tokyo Olympics. Now, if you see the figure when he is crossing the bar, the height of the bar is almost same as the navel of Valery Brumel. Height of the bar is same as that of the navel. Now, the art of high jumping is actually the art of lifting oneself, and lifting oneself means lifting one's CG, the center of gravity. And for a normal human being, the center of gravity rests in the navel. More so for an athlete like Valery Brumel, it would rest at the navel. And so, at the time of clearing the bar, his navel is at the same height almost as that of the bar. Now, see the change brought about by this person in 1968 Mexico Olympics. He is none other than Dick Fosbury, who started this particular style of high jumping, that is jumping from the back side, and while jumping from the back side, the head comes out first. So, this is the biggest advantage, that is the heaviest part of the body comes out first, and while so doing, the body bends like an inverted U, and so the center of gravity of the body comes below by almost 3 to 4 centimeter. An exact estimate can be made, which may vary from athlete to athlete, but it comes substantially below the bar. So, you are lifting the CG effectively to a height which is lower than that of the bar. In this style, you are lifting the body lower than the height of the bar, but ultimately you are getting the credit for the height of the bar. You are getting the credit for the height of the bar, but you are lifting your body effectively to a height which is substantially lower than the height of the bar. So, that is the advantage of Fosbury flip. Then look at this famous pole vaulter, Sergei Bubka. Now, he had held the record of pole vault for 6 long years. Now, you know, in pole vault, the athlete first takes a run, and then he bends the pole, which these days are made of fiberglass, and by bending the pole he generates substantial elastic energy, and by a combination of his kinetic energy of running and elastic energy of the fiber, he gains potential energy, that is the height by way of which he clears the pole. Now, Bubka was stockily built, he could not run very fast, and that was a matter of worry. But his coach said that your strong point are your muscles, your biceps. Now, see that particular situation when Bubka bending the fiberglass pole. You see the biceps, how strong it is. So, he said that you do not have to maximize your kinetic energy. You optimize your kinetic energy to the extent that the kinetic energy plus the elastic energy of the fiber is maximum, and that is how he could gain maximum height while crossing the pole. Then you can see these two persons. Now, here I am coming about application of mathematics in making complicated calculations, and those calculations lead to the decision of a match. You can definitely identify these persons, Duckworth and Lewis. Duckworth and Lewis's method is applied for determining the target of the team that is chasing a particular score in a rain curtain match or a match which has been curtailed due to any other kind of interruption. So, if the number of overs are curtailed, what would the target become? And that is known as DL method in short. Several matches have been won or lost due to the DL method. The basis of this method is that for the chasing team there are 2 resources. The 2 resources are number of wickets in hand and number of overs left. Now, you have 10 wickets in hand and you have 50 overs, then you will play little less aggressively. But if you have 10 wickets in hand and you have 25 overs left, then you will be playing more aggressively. So, all these things are taken into account in determining the target. Mathematics comes to play in determining the score of gymnastics. You can see on the screen the wonder girl Nadia Comaneci, who had won the gold medal in this vaulting horse exercises and floor exercises in 1976 Montreal Olympics. She was a 14-year-old girl. But the point which I want to emphasize, that gymnastics is not an objective event like 100 meters run, that is, whosoever would be crossing the finishing line first becomes first. It is a subjective event where marks is given, assessment is given by giving marks out of 10. Now, 7 judges do the assessment, they give marks out of 10. The judge who gives a maximum score, that marks is removed. One who gives a minimum score, that marks is removed, and the average of the remaining 5 is taken. Things have, however, changed a lot since the time of Montreal Olympics. Nowadays, out of 7 judges, we take out the 2 maximum and 2 minimum, and the average of the remaining 3 are taken. And then there are other factors like optional exercises, compulsory exercises, and difficulty levels are attached to optional exercises, and that factor is multiplied with the actual marks scored. And there are difficulty marks, performance marks, and then there are deduction marks. So, I am not going into those kind of complications. The point which I want to emphasize, that the application of mathematics in determining the winner in a gymnastics event. Now, let us see some of the famous seam bowlers, or rather I should say swing bowlers. Well, Richard Hadley, he was called the Sultan of Swing. Ian Botham, Imran Khan, our own Kapil Dev, Zahir Khan. Physics got applied to a very great extent in their bowling. How so? In fact, while I am talking about application of mathematics, I am also bringing in little bit of physics, but finally, as I said, that it is mathematics which helps physics in giving the explanation. Now, this is a cricket ball. Now, let us concentrate on the cricket ball. This is the seam of the cricket ball, and for a new ball, the polish on the 2 sides are same. Now, many fast bowlers, in fact, you might have observed that in this particular list, I have not included the West Indian bowlers like Malcolm Marshall, Courtney Walsh, and so on and so forth. Now, they used to depend more on the bounce, that is, they wanted a hard ball. Well, they have been taking wickets during their first spell, of course, also during the second spell, but the bowlers which you had seen on the screen little while ago, that is Richard Hadley, Imran Khan, our own Kapil Dev, Zahir Khan, Ian Botham, well, they were more successful during the second spell. Now, what happens during the second spell? The ball loses shine on one side, and you have seen the fielders maintaining the shine on the ball. Now, they maintain shine on one side of the ball, and by way of maintaining shine on one side of the ball, what happens? That the movement of air is smoother on that particular side. So, the velocity of air is more, and due to Bandauli's principle, the pressure is less and the ball will move towards the side which is having more shine. So, this is just a very, very fundamental explanation, but then by pointing your seam in the right direction, if you are pointing it towards the first slip, second slip, third slip, even towards the gully, or if you are pointing it towards the fine leg slip, lot of variation can be done, and I will ask the learners to try to find out how these variations are being done. Like Zahir Khan was an exponent of reverse swing, which was very much required towards the death overs in a 50-over match. So, that is about the swing bowling. Then another thing which becomes quite effective in cricket and football is Magnus effect. Now, on your screen you can see Heinrich Gustav Magnus, who had explained this particular effect, that is the dipping of the spinning ball. Now, that is used to a great extent by the footballers while taking curly free kick, what we call the banana kick. And here you can see the photograph, that is the laminar flow of the ball is getting affected due to the spin. So, again I am not going into the explanation, but I just want to create the excitement, I just want to sensitize the learners about this, that if this particular effect can be put to use properly, then there are remarkable happenings, as you can see in the next video clip.
First ball, Now what's happened? Mike Gatting staying there. The bail is off. He's bowled him. Gatting can't believe it. Dickie Bird, I suppose, can believe it. First ball, lethal.
So I think for a moment that Mike Gatting must have felt that it perhaps hit the keeper and went back onto the stumps. It was a perfectly pitched leg spinner, pitching just outside leg with a little bit of curve, and that's a beautiful delivery. Not a bad one to start with. I can understand Mike Gatting being disbelieving.
That was amazing. It was it just drifted in as leg spinners do, opening up Gatting's right shoulder. You see the shoulder coming open and then zipping back and cracking against the off stump.
So what we have seen in that video clipping, it was that famous delivery in an Ashes test match between England and Australia in June 1993, when Shane Warne had bowled that ball of the century. You had seen Mike Gatting playing an almost correct forward defensive shot, the ball pitching on the leg stick, maybe little on the rough, and then it turned, bit the blade of the bat, and after beating the blade of the bat, perhaps it would have been sailing harmlessly by the side of the off stick. But what happened? The ball was still spinning and it turned while spinning, and it also dipped and took the bell over the off stick and middle stick. Remember that Mike Gatting was not bowled round his legs. The ball went past the blade of the bat. Mike Gatting remarked that he felt proud of being dismissed by such a delivery. So what came into effect was Magnus effect. Of course, Magnus effect does not act on such a hard ball normally, but it is put to suitable use by several footballers. You can see this football and it is round in shape. Now when wind is blowing across the ball, the streamlines are like that, as you can see in the screen, and there is a boundary layer and there is a separation point where the wind leaves the ball. Now if you can spin the ball, then there is a gap between the boundary layer and the separation point, and the ball experiences a differential pressure, and due to that it dips. Now I am not going into the detailed analysis, but the interesting feature is the dipping of the ball. And then you think of a situation when a footballer is going to take a free kick. It is a good chance for scoring, so he would explore all the possibility. There is a big wall, and if the ball hits the wall, then the effect of the free kick is annulled. So the ball has to travel by the side of the wall. In the process it goes up and it dips inside the goalpost, beating the goalkeeper and the entire line of defense, which you will now see in the next video clip, where David Beckham is taking a fantastic free kick. Now that you have seen so many examples from sports, I thought of concluding this lecture with something which is so crucially related to any sports event, that is the toss. Particularly in a game like cricket, well, it is very crucial that which side goes to bat first and which side goes to bowl first. Even in other games, everything starts with the toss of the coin. Now suppose in place of a coin you have brought a die, then how to handle the tossing? Now when it was head and tail for a coin, well, the probability of appearance of each is half, and so it is equally likely to have a head or a tail. but here there are 6 numbers and the probability for each of them is 1 upon 6. So, you cannot call by the numbers, but there is a way out which you can see on the screen. Probability of odd, there are 3 odd numbers 1, 3, 5 and 3 even numbers 2, 4, 6. So, the probability of getting an odd number is 3 by 6, that is half. Probability of getting an even number is 3 by 6, that is also half. So, the captain who is going to call should be asked to call for odd or even, like tail or head. And then another problem. Suppose I have come to know that the toss which has been brought for doing the act is a biased coin. Now, if it is a biased coin, then again that particular equally likely aspect is not holding good, because the probability is not half, it can be anything other than half, and then the tossing will not be unbiased. So, in such a case, is there any way out? There is indeed a way out. See, suppose the probability of getting a head is p, then the probability of getting a tail is 1 minus p. So, what is the probability of getting head and tail one after another? It is p into 1 minus p, and likewise the probability of getting tail and head one after another is 1 minus p into p. Now, these two probabilities are same. So, the captain who is going to call will be asked to tell either head tail or tail head. But there is a catch. It is about the situation when by tossing twice, if you get 2 consecutive heads or if you get 2 consecutive tails, then you have to carry on with the process of tossing, and only when you get consecutive different sides, head and tail, then it would be decided. It is little complicated, but the point which I wanted to bring home, that even with a biased coin this is possible. Thus, we have seen how mathematics comes to our rescue when we have a biased coin. It makes tossing even possible with a biased coin. So, what we have learned so far? We have seen the application of mathematics in multifarious walks of life through the first program as well as through the second program, where of course examples from the arena of sports was the most dominant. So, we started with the observation that mathematics is the backbone of science, and now I hope you realize that. But my concern is about certain students and their guardians who have a fear psychosis about mathematics, because they feel perhaps that mathematics is a servant of science, mathematics is used to provide explanation to several phenomena, and they have a tendency, basically because of the examination phobia, to memorize those steps, but they will have to visualize the fact that several features, as we have seen, of science, nature and so on and so forth, emerge from mathematics. And so, I conclude by emphatically stating that mathematics is not the servant of science, it is rather the queen of science. Thank you.